everyone, Greg Flammang with Irish Sports Daily. Wanted to do a quick video on Marcus Freeman's press conference updates ahead of the matchup against number 15 Louisville in Notre Dame Stadium this Saturday. And before I get to those updates, I want to tell you about ESQ Clothing. It's almost game time. ESQ has finally restocked all of their bamboo dress shirts online. You've seen them on all your favorite Notre Dame players and coaches. It's made from proprietary fabric that's cooler and softer than cotton. It's the best shirt for any occasion. Go to esqclothing.com. Use ISD15 to get 15% off your order. That's ISD15 to get 15% off your order. All of our content is sponsored and brought to you by ESQ Clothing. We greatly appreciate them. All right, let's get to some updates. First of all, let's catch up on injuries here. Marcus Freeman announced an injury to Cooper Flammang, tight end. He said he hurt his ankle and he's going to be out for the upcoming game against Louisville. Didn't go too much into depth on it. It was on the play that happened when Riley Leonard missed him in the flat. You saw him come up lame there. I thought he might have had a muscle injury, but apparently he turned his ankle on the play, which might have affected him getting out in the route and connecting with Riley Leonard on that. He was seen on the sideline. He slammed his helmet on the ground. So obviously there was something wrong there. So he's going to be out. Marcus Freeman also talked about Josh Burnham being questionable. In Marcus Freeman parlance, usually questionable means not going to play. Not a lot of confidence from Marcus Freeman in his body language and the way he talked about Josh Burnham. So my expectation as of right now is that Notre Dame is not going to see him play against Louisville this weekend. So it's going to be a lot more Junior Tuihalamaka there, but he's also in replace of Jordan Patojo, a lot of RJ Oben, a lot more Bryce Young. And so that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on throughout the week and, on game day on Saturday. Another announcement from Marcus Freeman. Jaden Mickey has decided he's going to enter the transfer portal. He's going to graduate in the spring, and so he's going to be moving on. He is going to sit out. He's played his 4 games, so he's going to sit out the rest of the season. So that's, I think, a tough loss for the cornerback room. Whatever you think of Jaden Mickey, he's played a lot of snaps and he's played a lot of big games. So he's someone you could put in a pinch. Not even in a pinch, just someone you can put in. I mean, Notre Dame's played him a bunch this year. He's had 82 snaps, but they obviously like Leonard Moore and Carson Hobbs very much. Marcus Freeman said we're going to see their roles increase with Jaden Mickey leaving the team. Rod Hurd and Jordan Clark have also played cornerback. Rod Hurd I think he probably had his best game against Miami, Ohio. Best game with Notre Dame. He had his best game with the Irish against Miami of Ohio. And Jordan Clark has been outstanding all year. They probably would rather stick with, if it came to this, they'd probably rather stick with Jordan Clark, who's been playing really well in the slot, and just stick Rod Hurd at corner. But they really like Leonard Moore and Carson Hobbs. Carson Hobbs nearly had an interception on a really good play at the end of the game in the fourth quarter there against Miami of Ohio. Leonard Moore has seen a good amount of snaps in the last couple of weeks. They're really fast tracking him. So I know they're very excited about Leonard Moore, the football player, and Carson Hobbs as well. So that's something to keep an eye on there. Marcus Freeman was talking. He was asked a lot about Riley Leonard throwing the ball. Obviously, he talked about missing layups. He missed a short one to Chris Mitchell. He missed a short one to Cooper Flammang, and he also missed one to Mitchell Evans. I think some of these, and I've kind of been going over it a little bit on Twitter about how some of these are just kind of like there's timing issues. Not really sure where the receivers are supposed to be. Obviously, he's throwing on the run and a couple of other those, but he talked about the importance of stretching the ball down the field. That was something that Riley Leonard did on Saturday that he wasn't doing as much throughout the year, right? They had 8 throws that were over 10 yards on the game. He also drew a couple pass interference penalties that are obviously those count as well, right? When you're throwing the ball and you're up for a big play and they interfere with the play, you're getting good opportunities, right? Obviously, it's 15 yards, it's a first down, so you're moving the ball in those situations. So I think it was good for Marcus Freeman to see that. I think it's good for the offense to see that as well. And it's also a factor for the defense. They have to start considering that. Like, if Notre Dame is going to be willing to push the ball down the field, obviously the long pass to Bo Collins for a touchdown, first touchdown pass of the season for Riley Leonard, if that's going to be a part of Notre Dame's offense, that's something that defenses have to consider, right? If Notre Dame is throwing that ball, and it makes it a lot more difficult with Riley Leonard's legs. Marcus Freeman talked about how if he knew going into the game that Riley Leonard was going to have 300 total yards of offense and 3 touchdowns, that's something Marcus Freeman would take, right? Um, he is not going to be very accepting of the layups that are missed, right? Those are ones that just they're layups, right? So you need to connect on those. So that's something that I think Notre Dame needs to be aware of and they need to get better at. But the big playability of Riley Leonard, he was asked the question about how why is he so difficult to tackle? I think it was Pete Sampson who asked him as a former linebacker, how hard is like why is it so difficult to tackle him? I mean, he's a 6'3", 225-pound guy. He's very elusive in the open field. Michael Bryan of 18 Stripes, he had a really good tweet today about the elusiveness scores in college football, which is basically missed tackles forced, creating explosives and yards after contact. And Jeremiah Love is first in the nation with a minimum of 25 attempts. Riley Leonard's fifth, right? So if Riley Leonard's going to be fifth there and Jeremiah Love's going to be first there, like those are weapons in an offense that everyone has to deal with, right? And obviously teams aren't doing a very good job of dealing with Riley Leonard on the ground. So the combination of becoming a more of a downfield team, and including the running game and where he's been elusive and where he's been gashing teams. He's on pace for 18 touchdown runs this season at this point in the year. That's very difficult to deal with. So that's something that Marcus Freeman is going to try to build on going forward for this season. I'm just going to get rid of this here. Another thing Marcus Freeman talked about was dealing with Adon Schuler and the way that, he had a penalty there where he was caught for taunting, didn't hand the ball to the referee. He kind of shuffled it, threw it towards the Miami, Ohio bench. And he was kind of asked the question about like why he got on Adon Schuler. And it was almost as if he was apologizing for it. Like I yelled at him, yes, but it was a teaching moment. He got mad. It was almost like he was apologizing for losing his temper. I think you can yell at a player if they do. It's an obvious mental error, right? And he hurt the team. And I think every team that I've been a part of is when you do something that is deemed as selfish, right? And when I say every team, I mean football team. When you do something that is deemed as selfish, which is taunting, you are hurting your teammates because of an act that you did that was only for you, right? Team is very important in football. And so when you create a selfish act that hurts the team overall, I mean, your defense had to stay on the field. The offense wasn't given an opportunity to go down and score again. Notre Dame had managed the timeout situation specifically so that they would get the ball back. He did something that extended the drive. Didn't end up hurting them in points, but coaches will always say, well, what if we're out here extra plays and then one of your teammates get hurt because you were selfish, right? Those are things that any football coach is going to be intolerant of. They don't like that. They're not going to stand for that. And so if a coach is going to get on a player, I think that's fair and I think that's fine, right? Just because it's on TV, like coaches can get on players for that stuff. He did note that Adon Schuler immediately took accountability and said, that's my fault. I take responsibility for that. It won't happen again. So that's a good job by Adon Schuler, right? It's a good job of being accountable, realizing your mistake. I think Marcus Freeman came down from that. He patted him on the head. He sent him back out there, and then there were no problems the rest of the game. Marcus Freeman talked a lot about continuing to grow on the offensive line. They've got a Ashton Gelati, who Louisville has. They have a good defensive end coming up, and continuing to grow. Right, Emil Wagner was specifically mentioned. Sam Pendleton was specifically mentioned because of the false starts and things of that nature. I think Pat Coogan and Rocco Spindler, I think they played good football games, but continuing to grow. Notre Dame had its best performance from a pass protection standpoint. They gave up significantly less pressures. It was 15% on the game. They'd given up 32% or more in the previous 3 games. So there was growth there from Notre Dame. Obviously, a lot to clean up on offense, on the offensive line, in the passing game. I talked about wide receivers sticking with it and creating opportunities, catching 50-50 balls. He was asked a question about that. So he wants more, winning the 50-50 balls on a more regular basis. So that's something to monitor going forward. And that's pretty much that was pretty much what happened in today's press conference. So I wanted to give everyone a quick update on that. So thank you for checking into this video. If you like what you heard, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell soon, whenever it is we're releasing a video or going live. Jamie and I will be back tomorrow at 12 Eastern time, talking about kind of the end of what we saw against Miami, Ohio, getting into Louisville and what it portends to that, talking about quarterback play and things of that nature. So we'll talk to you then. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good day. Keep hitting and